There is one question that completely changes the way that you build your business. That question is, what is the day that you are building towards that you are obsessed with on a random Tuesday? What's the day that your business is supposed to create for you so that you experience that on a daily basis? And most people skip completely over it. I'm gonna be honest. Let's go over the number one thing that changes every single business decision that you make. The 3 biggest bottleneck that I see that keeps your dream day feel like an occasional reward instead of your new reality, and how to reverse engineer your business around the life that you're actually meant to live. It's on a nice little weekend in Ottawa with my friend, and like we just did so many amazing things. And then I went back another weekend just by myself, and this is what inspired this episode, because I remember so strongly that there was a time I actually had a lot of things in the way that made it so that regardless of the milestone that I was hitting, I still wouldn't be able to curate my days exactly how I wanted them to be, because that was not the issue. The issue was literally that I wasn't engineering the business in the way that I felt like I was meant to live it. And so this is what I really want to get into, because this is life-changing shit. Like when you are an entrepreneur, you need to kind of like figure everything out by yourself, kind of. Well, not all the time, but a lot of the time. And so these are genuinely the biggest things that allows you to reverse engineer your business around that kind of day that you're obsessed with, right? Because you know already that you are the girl who works so hard. And so like we need to make that possible, to be that bitch who works very hard, and also to have your days that truly makes you feel like, holy shit, like this is the exact day that you're meant to be living, like every single day. And you feel like a bad bitch. All right. So let's just get into it. Go grab your matcha, go on your hot girl walk. Now, like I previously mentioned, there is this big thing around like really designing your life around your goal, right? Because when you're super ambitious, like you think about your goals a lot. Like I don't know about you, but I know that like that is a thing. Like that has always been a thing for me. Like, and I know like a lot of ambitious people too, that's their thing. Like, you know, we think about the goal so often, right? You think about the goal, what's the next goal, what's the thing that you're working towards, and like all of this is good because we want the focus, right? But there's a difference between designing your life around your goal versus around the days that you want for that next reality, that next era that you're entering. And so it's a very different kind of entry point. And it's not to say that you're less focused on your goal. It's just that you're more intentional about how the conditions that you're creating around the goals that you're setting, so that you can have that exact day and that exact reality that you're like, oh, this is how I'm meant to live on a regular basis. And so let's say that, you know, you're like, okay, like I want this 10K month, or I want this 20K month, or like I want a bigger audience, I want more clients, right? And so all of these things are the goals, which is good, right? That's like the focus. You're like, okay, I know the focus, but what makes the biggest difference has to be like, instead of asking only what the goal is, what the next goal is what do I actually want these things to give me, right? Like what's beyond the goalpost? Like what's, or more like underneath it? What's underneath the goalpost that like you were putting up and working towards and like putting your focus on? Because that is the exact thing that will make it so that you're not just designing your life around your goal, but you're designing it around your days. Create your signature day. Like you were to choose like one scene that you want to live, right? What does that look like, right? Like what is like one random Tuesday that like you would be obsessed living with every single week? For example, when I went to Ottawa this weekend, I was looking at the sunset and I was just thinking, oh my God, like what a fucking vibe would it be if I were to be right here? Well, I had a matcha in my hand. I was sitting on the bench. I was like watching the sunset. I had just like taken kind of like a stroll in the city and like looked at like some cute shop, like, you know, like just window shopping for like fun. And I sat down in the park and like watching the sunset, and I was like, what a fucking vibe would it be if I had my AirPods in and I would be literally on this CEO walk, like giving live feedback to a client while I'm just like on a stroll, like just walking, or like I'm like in the park, like watching the sunset. And I was like, oh my God, like, you know, this is the thing. It's like, I find it like the more that you can try to like curate these specific moments that like, you know, that like in this next era, this next reality, like you want to be experiencing, like this is literally like a day that you feel like, holy shit, like this is such a fucking vibe, like this is exactly what I want in my reality, then it makes it so much more precise towards like what you are designing your business around, and like what would make that actually possible. And you know, for example, like when I went to Costa Rica, and I was like, I brought my computer and I had like my laptop and everything, and it's like such a fucking vibe to like coach clients and like have those coaching calls still when I'm on like a trip and everything. And so it's kind of like curating very like specific moments that like you could have on like this regular basis that like would make your days like a day that you're literally fucking obsessed with. Okay. And so that starts creating, instead of thinking, oh my God, I want this bigger successful business, or like feel like my lifestyle is more expensive or whatnot. Like it's about picking one scene that like your future self experiences weekly. And that scene gives you so much more sense of direction, more than your goals can. Because again, it's kind of like, what is under the goal, or like beyond the goal, that like once you hit the goal, then you want that to happen, right? Because it's about designing the business prior to it, so that I can actually pour in, like that day can actually happen. And this is so amazing to do, because once you start coming up with these accurate scene that like you're like, holy shit, like I really want this would be like the day that I'd be literally fucking obsessed with, like, or just like a moment in my day that like that makes it such a vibe, then you start to see that your brain will come up with kind of like these problems that you need to solve, and like these bottlenecks that are in the way. And this is what I want to get into next, which is the 3 biggest bottleneck. If I were to do a CEO walk or whatnot, then I would need to have more focus while I'm walking, so I'm actually giving as much value to, for example, my client or whatnot, than if I am like not like sitting down in like this office space, right? And so you start to see that like what are the real things, the real issue that are actually in the way of that day pouring in. Okay. And you will start to see too that like there is a lot of like sometimes fear and limitation that you start to realize that are genuinely blocking you right now. So for example, right, let's say that you are like, okay, I really want to, you know, go and have my Pilates class in the middle of my day, but I find that like, oh, I don't have enough time or whatnot. And it's like, okay, but like, then if you feel like you don't have enough time, then how can we make the time? Like what's the, you know, again, like it's like solving these problems, and then maybe you will even get to realize that like, holy shit, like maybe I have this limitation that like my Pilates class in the middle of the day should be for like this special occasion, and like I should not be allowed to like have that. Or maybe you're thinking, oh my God, like, but can I really take like a cell call or like whatnot, like on the beach? Like, am I actually allowed to like be doing that? Isn't that like more like unprofessional or whatever? And it's like, no, like, you know, all of these things starts coming up when you start to curate the real scene that like this future era that you are entering, that you want to enter, is experiencing on a daily basis. And then you will start to see that maybe the issue is that you would need more confidence to be taking a sales call on the beach. You would need to be maybe more prepared, or like have a better sense of focus, because you are in this environment that is not like this your typical space that takes you out of focus, right? And you will start to see that again, like what are the bottlenecks that are in the way, and you start to realize why your day is not here yet, why your day feels like, you know, these days that like you really feel like on top of the world, and you really feel like, holy shit, like I want to have this kind of day like every single day. It's not happening every single day. It's happening kind of like as an occasional thing, or like as a reward for you or whatnot, like, you know what I mean? And so it takes like a different kind of action and focus that is required out of you, and you start to really like pull threads after threads after threads of like why exactly this day cannot happen right now. You're getting to the actual issue. It's like, you know, and this is what I personally love to do when I get into like this scene that I'm like, oh my God, like, okay, I really want this. And it's like, what do I need to work through to make that happen? Like, do I need a better sense of concentration? Do I need to believe that like I am just as valuable, even though I am not like sitting down in an office? Like you see what I mean? It's like you start to pull on these threads that it's like, why the hell is this not happening? Like, why is my day not like the day that I'm obsessed with? Like, how can I make it like a regular thing? And then you start to pull on these threads, all of these freaking bottleneck that are in the way. And sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's actually like a design issue, but sometimes it's actually that you need to be more in control of your time or your demand. Sometimes it's actually too a limitation issue with like how you are thinking about it, like, you know, or what you think you're allowed to do, or what you think is actually valuable, or what you think like is like appropriate to do, right? And it's like, hello, like, are we not here to live our best fucking life and like make your business whatever you want it to be, right? Me in my head, it's like the more that you are obsessed with every day that you're building, that you're doing, then it's like you get to give more to other people, you get to give more to your clients, and then they become more obsessed with you, and then you have your time worth more. And it's like, I don't know, it's like this big never ending cycle that's like, it just benefits everyone, right? But it's also about being like, okay, can I have that, right? Can I have that on a regular basis and not like as a reward? Anyways, I kind of am going on a rant here. All that to say that like that day, or like the scenes that you are imagining that like you get to have on a weekly or regular basis, then that starts to become kind of like your decision making filter. Okay. And so when you are unsure, it's not like about asking, okay, like what should I do? It's more about asking like, would the woman living my dream Tuesday choose what I'm choosing right now? Right? Like, does this move you closer to that? Does this support your energy? Does this match the reality that you are building towards? And this almost starts to remove anxiety, I would say, because you stop making these random decisions and you stop wondering like, oh my God, am I doing enough? And instead of asking, oh my God, am I doing enough? Am I like, whatever, you start asking like, am I actually building towards the exact reality that I want to be entering right now? And that is a very different question to be asking. And I will say this, okay, when you want a new reality, having new environments that gets your brain to open up to new possibilities and like receiving more options or like more things that you can think of, then that helps a lot. And one of the things that I love to do is adding new like reality cues for yourself. When I imagine this like new day that I'm curating that like I'm literally obsessed with, like I'm imagining, let's say, myself wearing like these cute little heels, okay? But then right now, let's say I'm not wearing those cute little heels or like this cute outfit that I'd be wearing, then I feel like that day is like further away because I'm not doing these simple things that I could be doing right now, right? And so all of these little reality cues can really start helping you like really signal to your brain, okay, we are entering this new reality, and bringing these like little cues into your life right now, it starts like closing the gap and you start to feel like more magnetic, you start to feel different. And like every single one of these action that you're doing is signaling to your brain like, okay, like this is who you are now, this is the standard. You're building evidence, right? Like evidence that like this new life that you're designing is already in motion. Like you are actively like changing the way that like you are doing things. Whatever doesn't match the new days that you are designing, that you are working towards, that you are entering, then you are cutting out the rest that like wouldn't make sense for that kind of day, that like wouldn't allow you to live that as your regular days or like your regular thing. This is one thing that I love to do, which is like, what is like one thing that I would love to experience more frequently instead of like occasionally. So for example, when I went on my weekend, I went to a yoga class on a freaking boat. Like, are you kidding me? Like, what the fuck? That's such a fucking vibe. So I went on a yoga class on a boat, and there was also like this guided meditation session along with it. And it was absolutely phenomenal. Like, it was like an hour and a half, and it was like very early in the morning. So I woke up at like 6 in the morning. I'm not really someone who wakes up at 6 in the morning usually. But I was like, okay, like, you know, what are the experience that I want to, you know, bring more regularly into my life, into my days, instead of like hoarding that experience like it's like this thing that I get to do like as a reward, or like in this limited mindset, where like what are the things that like you are kind of like, maybe this is the thing, like what are the experiences or the things that like you are kind of like hoarding, like it's like has to be this occasional thing, when in reality perhaps it can actually be this regular thing. Like, you know what I mean? This is why I want to bring up really having the highest return on investments decisions that you start to make. Biggest return on investment, that can be like your time, your energy, your money, all of these things. And so you want to take the dream day, okay, and reverse engineer it. And this is not by adding more things, okay? Oh my God, sometimes like I see these things which is like about manifestation. It's like you need to add, you know, this ritual, and like there's like freaking like 3,000,000 steps in your day. And it's like, when I hear that, I'm like, I feel like I'm suffocating. Like, bitch, let's make it simple and effective. How about that? Okay. And so really, you know, reverse engineering it, it's about really identifying the like few decisions, the few things that actually creates the highest return on investment for yourself, for your business. Okay. And so we're not trying to like pile a bunch of shit on. We're trying to like simplify and like increase the impact, basically. And then it's about being able to truly do these permanent upgrades that makes the whole difference, right? And so like, what is that one future decision that like you know you would never have to make again, right? So for example, raise your price, or stop offering service that is draining to certain clients, or hire like an editor, or batch your calls, or unsubscribe from things that like just steal your attention. Like these small decisions, like they truly compound every single week. And especially like, let's say that like one of your days that you're literally obsessed with is like, okay, like I am like getting so many new freaking clients every single week that are like my most highest paying clients I've ever had in my entire life. Like that's like my new obsessed days that I have, or whatever. It's like whatever that day is, it's like what would have to become inevitable. Like that is one of the best things that I like to ask myself. And like, what would it make that day like inevitable, right? Protecting like your morning, like your morning, that like you do things like pour into yourself that like would have to become inevitable. Would it be like attracting higher quality or higher paying clients that would have to become inevitable, that like protects your energy? Or like, would it have to be charging more, or being able to charge more, or being able to have people willing to pay more would have to be inevitable? Or like, is it like taking that CO walk that like would have to become inevitable for you? Or like, what are those things that like these no longer become like goals that like you have, but these become your new standard? These become your new standard so that you get to have that day you're obsessed with on the regular basis. Because I feel like there's all a point that we get to where we finally realize that like the days that we are obsessed with, it's not created when we arrive at like that new goal or that new milestone or that future destination. It's like the days that like we get to experience the most, and like how we are making that like how we are designing our days that like we get to experience the most, right? So that when you are making these decisions, it starts matching the reality that you are calling in. And so these goals, you know, it's not just like, okay, let's build this bigger successful business. It's also like building the day that you get to live out the most and that you feel like on top of the world and like, holy shit, like this is the day that you get to live every single day. And so you are so blessed. And yeah, and this is literally making you live out the life that like you know you're meant to live. Okay. And so, oh my God, like I feel like you got so much insight from this. I feel like, yeah, at some point you just kind of realize that like that day that you keep putting on a pedestal, like it doesn't just arrive, like you build towards it, like you build around it, and like you build your business around it so that you get to have that as a reality, not just like an occasional hazard that's like once a month as like a reward. You know what I mean? And yeah, and allowing yourself to like have that as your reality, as your day. You get to do the work that you're obsessed with, and like you get to like also live out that reality where you feel like you get poured into more, so like you pour more in return too. One last thing that I want to say is that like getting these days that you're obsessed with, it's also about like realizing that like, again, like you having these days like benefits everyone. Like it does, like it benefits everyone, and it makes everyone's life better, not just yours. Make sure to share it with a friend or someone that you know like she needs to hear this and apply this. And I will meet you back here next week as always, and stay freaking amazing. If you love this episode, then definitely subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for tuning in, and don't forget to leave your 5-star rate and review on the podcast. I love to know what you guys think of the episodes, and I will meet you here next week.